Excellent. Well, welcome to another account-based Friday session, and we've got a great one today from Chicago. We've got CMO Lisa Sherapata joining us from BoostUp AI. Lisa, thank you for joining us. We're going to get into your background in a moment. You've got a very, very unique account-based background, and I know you're doing a lot of interesting things at BoostUp. But why don't we talk about our poll first? Each week we open with a poll, and this week's poll we were talking about the definitions and process around marketing qualified accounts. Here I had asked the question of what is happening from a sales and marketing viewpoint of marketing qualified accounts. Kind of a simplistic poll, hard to, you're limited to the number of words, and so it's hard to explain, to get into a lot of details here. But the question that I had asked was, is there agreement on the definition and process of a marketing qualified account? Are there different definitions? Are there processes that are missing, or is there other? Now, not a ton of people voted on this, and I think one of the reasons is a lot of people are kind of in the earlier stages of adopting account-based still. I think, for us on this call, we're probably a little bit more advanced than most. That's one reason why I think people didn't vote on it. The other, I think, is LinkedIn has kind of altered their algorithm a little bit, or it could be a tough question to answer. But I don't know, Megan, did you have any perspective on this week's poll?
Yeah, I think I'm not surprised actually that this is the sort of distributed outcome. Granted, it's a small sample, and I know that Dawn's and my former colleague at Sirius, who was one of the main researchers, always said never put "and" in a survey question because you don't know what people are saying yes to. Yeah, exactly. And Lenise, you put the point, we're going through the process. I think right now, especially early in a new year, when a lot of people have kind of a December 31 year end, starting the new year, you may be going back to the drawing board a little bit on creating some of these definitions. If people have moved into an account-based model and that's relatively new for them, that could be work in progress. Made me a bit sad to see one of the comments that said sales and marketing will never agree on anything. That hasn't been my experience, with due respect to Timothy there, but I think it's really important to say what can we agree on and work from there. And that's why I'm super excited, Lisa, that you're here today, because I think you've been able to learn a few things on your account-based journey and marketing leadership journey, and just excited to have you share some of that with us. And maybe you can help folks think a little bit about what it takes to at least get to some agreement.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so Lisa, you've had some interesting experiences working at Sixth Sense and Primo, so you've kind of seen the MarTech side of things, and now that you're over in kind of an operating role as the CMO of BoostUp AI, like what are you seeing in terms of that transition from an account-based perspective? Because I got to believe that there's been some shifts or changes in those two environments.
Yeah, I mean, I've really seen, I would say, the full gamut, and it's still evolving, right? So I'll just kind of back you up and say, I started some account-based strategies like way back, kind of when it was not even named account-based. Actually, when I worked at Teradata, and then Teradata sold off. The division I was with became a Primo, and we kind of went back to more traditional stuff. And then we started, it was a very elaborate sales process, an enterprise sale, and really pretty quickly realized like there was multiple stakeholders in every deal, and we needed to figure out that account-based motion again. And so we started doing some things that were working, but they weren't working it was not scalable. And it was also like, we still were like, we're getting into deals too late. We started to do some analysis of like all of our closed loss and why, and we were in too late. It was like a check the box with a procurement department saying you need more vendors, but their mind was made up. So then that is what led me to start looking for ways to get ahead of the curve and get into deals earlier. And that's when I found intent data. So this is back in 2019, feels like a really long time ago. And so we put in Sixth Sense at a Primo, and I mean, it was a game changer. Being able to, see into that dark funnel and know what accounts were doing much, much earlier allowed us to create really great experiences when they started showing signs of life. So, instead of waiting for them to come to the site and fill out a form, by that point they raised their hand, they've already done a whole bunch of their homework, and it's pretty late in the game. We could start influencing them as soon as they started searching for a keyword, for example, and making sure that we made a highly relevant experience as well, because like at Aprimo, we had 5 different product offerings. So, if they were searching for digital asset management, for example, and then we knew that, we could put them down the path to that product versus boiling the ocean, trying to sell them our platform, or maybe talking about marketing resource management instead when that's not what they were trying to sell for. And so again, we went from a 9% conversion rate from a marketing qualified lead to a 40% conversion rate. And we did at that point kind of start calling it a marketing qualified account. 6 Sense was in it the early days of even evolving their thinking on this. And then I did eventually go over to 6 Sense and work there. And when I was there is when we were really starting to build out the model of like, what does awareness mean? What does consideration mean? When is an account MQA'd? The whole talk track around like the MQL is dead. It's the MQA was starting to get, formalized and take, we were actually like, had the drumbeat going of this in the market, having CMO breakfast, talking to them about like how you need to change what you're talking about to the board of directors, and really start looking at things more from a account perspective, because you've got to win the account, and the revenue perspective instead of a lead perspective and a cost per lead perspective. So all of that was happening, and it was really exciting, and made a lot of changes to my strategy at that point. Was able to set up dynamic campaigns based on stage, based on keywords, put together like a segment that's all searching for this thing and they're at this stage, and dynamically then set up a campaign that worked across that, and at all different stages could do that. And so really started to be able to streamline and automate some of the processes and things there. But over time, and I left there and I went to a company called Mindtickle, and now I'm here at BoostUp. I'm really starting to see the market shift again a little bit more, because people are more educated. Now the reluctance to fill out a form, like now compared to 3 years ago, is like, probably through the roof. I don't even know what the percentages are. That might be another quiz or LinkedIn question that you ask. But, the expectation of the consumer has changed along with the technology. And so, I've just started to make some pivots in my thinking too, and how I use it, how I use the information, and how I set up everything that we're doing. I'll pause there. I can keep going, but I
love what you're sharing with us, Lisa. And I think, you've really been on sort of that full, account-based journey. It sounds like and like you, I started before it was actually called anything. It was just marketing. If you had a defined universe of companies you sold to, like you had to do it differently. And I think we've all kind of come to realize we all have a defined universe of companies. It's just a matter of which ones are actively buying and not, and how do you engage them. But you mentioned, like, what are some of the biggest shifts you've seen? Like, what are some of the, if you were to say kind of top 3 changes in buyer expectations, what would you say those are for you?
Yeah, some of it I think has to do with me now being in an industry where we're selling rev tech, and what BoostUp is a revenue operations and intelligence platform. It's basically forecasting your front office for the whole revenue team to look at risks, where are we going to land, that kind of thing. And it's new. And a big part of even the change that's going on happened because of COVID, because now the selling process is more digital than ever before. So now all these insights can get captured. So some of it has to do with the industry and a shift there, and that this is a whole new world. And because it's a new technology and we're selling to CROs and sales leaders, like, they're educated, they're smart. The same things don't work for them that even work for marketers, which is who I was selling to for a long time. And not that marketers aren't smart, but the salespeople, they know what a BDR is going to try to do, and they kind of don't want anything to do with it, is kind of what we're seeing in our space. And they want to do their research on their own terms, their own way, and they have a different lens than a marketer has. And so some of it just has to do with the target audience and the newness of the technology, and the fact that they need to spend some time educating themselves on some new ways to do forecasting. And even like revenue teams is a newer concept. And so companies are still figuring that out, right? So it's very early. And I think that's part of why I'm seeing some of the changes I'm seeing here. But in general, in the B2B world, what I'm really seeing is that I call it a P2P world, people to people. There's C to, or, B2B, C2C, whatever, B2C, like there's all different ways. But to me, it's like people are buying from people. They're much more educated. They're used to having a great experience. They're used to being able to do almost anything they want online. Especially with COVID, you don't have to do anything face-to-face, pretty much, that you don't want to. And so the expectations that there's a great experience online and it's easy to find what you want, where, when, and how you want it, is, I think, more prevalent than ever. And it's only going to continue to have higher expectations on B2B companies and B2C. But again, I think that the lines are going to get very blurry, and that a consumer is going to consume the way they want to, and it's not going to matter who it's from in the future. So again, filling out a form, like, I can't imagine it lasting a whole lot longer. Now for like a demo, yeah, but to me, that's a very similar to like wanting to purchase. Like, if you fill out that form to get request a demo, what's going to happen? It's kind of like, if you, put your credit card information in, what's going to happen. And so, again, I think the lines are going to just get blurrier.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about the forms. In fact, I think I had an earlier LinkedIn post on this within the last week, talking about that very thing of forms introduce friction, and it becomes super challenging for reaching out. And like you said, everybody's doing a lot of research now behind the scenes. Intent data might play into that a little bit, in kind of illuminating what else is happening outside of the traditional funnel. Given your experiences, both, in companies like 6 Sense, and now you're implementing, it sounds like, demand base as well. Has intent helped you there, or, like, how are you guys using intent?
I mean, intent is, and I mean, that you've nailed it. Like, that is the game changer for me. I'm using the intent data pretty much for anything. So I can take the forms down because I know someone came to a page and I know what they clicked on because of the intent data and the UTM parameters, and I can pull that all in. And now I can pull in G2 visits and Zoom info intelligence, and like all of it can be aggregated into one thing. So I feel like it's just replacing lead scoring, and it's more accurate. It's earlier, so what's happening much earlier. And again, it's just more accurate. I have more data. I see what keywords someone's searching for. I can tell which people in the company have been searching. I can get a better idea of the amount of engagement over time, the frequency, the different channels. And so all of that aggregated not only gives me a much better idea of where someone is in their buying journey, but also the pain points that they have, what they're trying to learn more about. And then that allows me to do a much better job of marketing to them and educating them, again, solving the problem, the pain that they're searching, the keywords that they're searching for, tell me the pain that they have, so then I know what to serve up. I know what they need next. So yeah, intent data. I mean, I don't even know how I could do my job without it at this point.
Oh, I hear you. It's a game changer for sure. Looks like Lanice, you have a question. Jump on in.
Yeah, no, so this is really good. And kind of going back, John, to your polling question, I had a question for you, Lisa, in terms of, how have you implemented this definition of MQA with sales? And was there any other stakeholders that you included in the conversation to further define it?
Yeah, I'll say I have done this in 4 different sales teams now. And it's a little bit different everywhere. And some of it has to do with the state of the business and the, I guess, maturity of the organization, and even the mindset of the team, and the sales leader or the revenue leader, and just how modern, how savvy are they. Like, the first time we put this in at a Primo, it was just marketing, and we had to really start showing the success with it. And then sales was like, oh, this is working. We want in. And we worked with them and picked 100 accounts. And that was all, we took their tier 1 enterprise list. We put that in as a static document into 6 Sense as a segment. And then we could see, here's the best accounts. These are the ones that we should go after. And we created a 1-to-1 experience. And again, we got from a 9% to a 40% conversion rate. And I mean, this was within a matter of months. And we had a 12 to 15 month sales cycle prior to this. It cut down deal cycle time. I mean, it was just the results were amazing. And so that was how I got the sales team engaged there. Then they went to 6 Sense, and it was everyone's using it. This is just how it is. But then, my next role, and say, part of it was having those conversations up front. This is what I'm going to implement. This is how it works. Having even the CRO at 6 Sense come and show it to our CRO. Here's how I run my team off of this. Here's how we do it. This is how it helps. This is the insights we get. This is how it's improved my cycle time. And getting them bought in from the very beginning was really, really critical to that. And then working with the RVPs and getting them bought in, and then a lot of enablement on that as well. And again, having wins, showing wins with it. But the other thing too is would you rather have marketing hand you over a lead that's based on these scores and you know nothing else about them, or an account with all of this information that we know has engaged with this and this and this, and opened this email and been to this website page, search for these things? What's your preference? 99% of the time, when they start to understand, here's the shift and here's why we're making it and here's why it's better, they get bought in. And that's really critical. And then now I'm standing it up again, and I'll say, again, it's a new industry. The Forest will be having the first wave on it right now. We're in the wave process. It's new. So we're learning things too. And one of the things I really like about demand-based is I'm able to actually adjust the stages and the criteria for what it means to be at a stage. And we're learning as we go that 60% of the accounts that inbound have gone to our interactive product tour, for example. And so that's a high value engagement for us. And we want to give extra points to that. And so when we start to see those trends and that data, and we can share it and say, and hopefully I can start to pull it through too and say the 60% who've been to this product tour, who are hand raisers, if they meet our ICP fit and all the other criteria, let's say they're closed won at this higher rate, and we know this because it's happened over and over again. When you can start to show that kind of stuff to your sales team, they're so much more likely to want to work those accounts. So that's where we're going with it here. Right now, everything before I got here was all pure inbound, all hand raisers. So the other thing is, we're looking to grow 3x. Well, how are you going to do that? And we've got to bring in more. We've got to bring it in earlier. So again, which would you rather? And when you start working with them that way and helping identify the things that are important to them too, and then actually being able to adjust some of the stages based on their feedback, I'm finding that to be really valuable.
Thank you, Lisa. And I would love to build on that for a second, because I know one of the challenges people have is there's so much information actually that you can gather about an account and about the people in the buying group. And how do you figure out which things to send to sales? And then how do you help them know what to do with it? That's one of the things I hear all the time is we get so much information, we don't know what to do with all of it. What's your advice for that scenario?
Well, I'll say it, definitely can be overwhelming. And I had a large BDR team reporting to me in my last role. And so we had a dashboard, and the accounts that MQA'd served up onto that dashboard for them. And then it was routed by rep, by capacity, by region, we had all these criteria. And then they knew which accounts they were supposed to work. And then we showed them, if they're searching for these keywords, we have what we call value cards. If they search for these keywords and it's this persona, here's how to start the conversation with them. So there was a lot of enablement that way. And again, that gets to be really complex. What I'm finding here is we're not using BDRs at all. And I don't know if we will, because again, different audience, and the CRO sales, head of sales, really just we tested with this last year, don't want to talk to a BDR. They want to talk to people in their network. They want social proof. They want to be able to educate themselves, like we were talking about. And so again, what I'm looking for here now is if they've gone to a product tour, if they've gone to G2, if they've searched for one of our competitors, if they've had more than 2 people in the account and there's specific people like the CRO, the RevOps leader, engaged. These are leading indicators that they're highly interested. And then what we're actually doing is taking the time to enrich the account, look to see if we have any what we call beacons, but friendlies who know people at that account, who maybe worked with people at that account, who are using our technology, and find a better way to get an intro and get our foot in the door. So it's, I guess, more heavy lifting up front, but again, it pays off in the long run, and we're not wasting a lot of time and effort cold calling and spamming people and trying to get them to take a meeting with us. We're really trying to add value every step and have a very informed conversation with them and utilize, we see, looks like you're looking for these things, looks like you're aware of this competitor of ours, knowing kind of where to start that conversation. And again, a very savvy sales team too. So again, it really just depends on your business and the level of maturity or modernness of your sales team, and how willing they are to try new things and what you have to work with, and then I just kind of have to navigate the cards you're dealt and what you have to work with and what's going to work, and test things. I would not be afraid to test things. That taking smaller groups and like doing it this way here and doing it that way there and seeing if something works better than something else. That has always been like one of the things that I've, fallen back on when I just don't know. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Oh, it's amazing. I love how human you're making this whole process. You're really thinking about, hey, let's not try to fit our buyers into what we think the process should be. Let's start with saying what do our buyers want and need? What are they going to respond to? And let's respect that and act accordingly. I love it. That's a great strategy. Ray,
thanks.
you've got a good question going. Let's feel free.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had, when you have identified a newly targeted account, like do you have any specific plays that you're doing to get them from like nothing, well, something about them, but they don't know, you don't know where they are in the awareness cycle to get them to an MQA. Like what are some of those sort of initial activities, right? I know you touched on some of the stuff, like once they get closer to what an MQA is.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's kind of old school things like having roundtables and inviting them, or we just started doing lunch and learns too. Again, knowing that this audience is in like very heavy research mode and trying to make it as easy as possible for them to learn about what our product does without friction, without feeling like the pressure of doing a one-on-one. So some of that kind of thing. But then also we just started implementing like conversation ads on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff too, to be able to like one-to-one conversation with people. Really heavy social. We know people are on LinkedIn. We know that they're networking, making it as easy as possible, again, for them to like connect the dots between this happy user and somebody that they know and the social proof. With that's our major focus right now. And I'll just say like, it's working, getting very refined in our target audience and how we're approaching them, instead of a spray and pray motion.
I imagine you're doing a lot of work in the community to kind of bolster up your reputation and or monitor what's being said there, because it's almost like the dark side of that funnel that you wouldn't normally traditionally see. Probably a lot of energy is going in that direction. Am I kind of correct on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're a small team, and I'll say 2/3 of what we're doing in marketing right now is all in social communities, primarily LinkedIn, but other communities that are established, and then also working to connect people and start to create our own community as well. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here, is we're trying to connect people as well. So just keeping an eye on time here. I think we're toward the bottom of the hour. Any last thoughts or last advice on people that are starting their account-based journey? Anything in retrospect that you wish you had done that you would suggest to the audience to do going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just like tap into what Megan pulled out and say, you really have to look at it from the lens of your audience. There's not a one size fits all, looking at what's going on in your market, how are buyers buying and shopping, and what is your team truly capable of? I mean, I've run some complex plays, and I'll just tell you that like the more complex it is, the harder it is to get sales involved, and the heavier the lift, and it's exhausting. So I've really tried to strip things away and like simplify things into the purest way to connect with people and engage with people, and just go back to like people buy from people. It comes down to them feeling comfortable and confident that what they're purchasing is a good choice for them. And so if you can like strip out anything from what you're doing and get to the essence of that, which it's just like, writing something short versus long. It's like easier to write the long thing. It's more verbose, and like you have more room to, cutting out the words and still getting the point across, I think is harder up front. But if you can get the right pieces in place and simplify it, I think it's better.
Great.
Good advice for anyone about almost anything. Thank you so much for being here today, Lisa. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. And next week, we've got the Vice President of Revenue Operations, Rosalind Santa Elena from Neo4j. She's very outspoken in terms of RevOps as a function. So it'll be interesting to hear her perspective of trends and activities. So thanks again, Lisa, for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.